So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're currently listening and watching to my video blog. I've been driving, I would say about approximately 2 hours alongside the border of Ukraine. And so Ukraine is basically over that mountain right there. And, as y'all have probably heard that Congress had just passed that $61 billion worth of aid to Ukraine. My background professionally has been in Central and Eastern Europe, over a decade long of, professional experience in economic development in the region. And, I'm extremely baffled by the overall, idea and reason behind that aid package. So if y'all can see, that's Ukraine over there. Okay. I've been coming to this part of the world since 2008, okay, when I was still in the U.S. Peace Corps. And a lot has changed in the region, and a lot of, investments and a lot of opportunities been created in the region. And so I'm still trying to process the reasoning behind so much aid to be sent to Ukraine. Last a few hours ago. Obviously, I'm in a different time zone, and I've only actually had slept for 4 hours. Just trying to pay attention to the news regarding the new aid package that's been earmarked for Ukraine, and looking into the 2-year war situation that have basically amassed hundreds of billions worth of U.S. taxes to go to Ukraine, appropriated by, politicians, not subject matter experts, not, individuals that have professional competency in economic development in emerging and frontier markets of Central and Eastern Europe, not anyone that have had experience living, working in the region. They just basically, decided to, appropriate funds that American taxpayers, most of them of which are taxpayers that don't make a whole lot, maybe living from paycheck to paycheck, having a heck of a time paying their mortgage, their rent. Some of our American taxpayers are now homeless, just because they can't even afford to, support themselves, even though they've been paying taxes for years and years. And it pains me to think about a lot of Americans that are currently struggling because, most of the decision makers, our politicians that have basically, appropriated these billions worth of U.S. taxes to go to Ukraine, are making well over hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of their previous incomes. Some of them even owns businesses that are $1 million worth of businesses. And, I'm all for supporting those that are in need. I'm all for supporting those people that are oppressed and providing, support to those that are marginalized in this world. That's why I joined the U.S. Peace Corps, making $200 a month for 28 months I feel for them. I understand the plight of those people in third world countries because my parents originated from third world countries, and I feel for them, and I feel for, what they had to deal with. And so I support economic development worldwide. I'd studied, international business, foreign affairs, precisely so that I can be of assistance to those in need. On top of, also promoting U.S. diplomacy worldwide and supporting our friends and allies. But, you know, looking at this whole situation with Ukraine, I simply do not understand the reasoning behind such amount of aid. If you guys have been following this, conflict in Ukraine and how it escalated, most of the conflict is actually taking part on the eastern side of the country, a small, portion of the country, the closest to the border of Russia, mainly because of the dispute regarding, NATO accession and the European Union, you know, basically getting access to the Ukrainian market. But since most of our politicians in the States are getting bits and pieces of information regarding the overall, situation in the region, especially in Ukraine, um, I'm not so sure if they're getting quality information, to be honest, and optimum decision making information in order for them to advise and educate their constituents. Back in 2020, um, during the general election, I was, I run for office. I run for the U.S. Senate, and I specifically spoke about my background in the region during, my very limited access to the public because, as they all know, uh, during the pandemic, people weren't allowed to congregate, people weren't allowed to interact within proximity to each other. So it was almost impossible for me to recruit voters and connect with them and tell them about my background. So I tried to, do my best to share my background and story and overall expertise in the region online, and I wasn't even given the opportunity to compete, via virtual debates, during the election season. So, I figured that's in the past, but perhaps if people were open minded enough in the US and people are truly interested in equal opportunity, and the national media covered my campaign, maybe the American public would be a little bit more, informed regarding the situation in Eastern Europe, specifically between Russia and Ukraine. But because I don't look like the typical majority of the populations, and because of my background as a marginalized American, I didn't get a whole lot of traction during my campaign. And nobody raised a red flag. Nobody said, oh, well, why isn't Mina being given the equal opportunity to compete um, during a pandemic, okay, in the US? So, again, folks, this is Ukraine right there. Okay, I mean, it's the mountainous section of the country. But I figured, I at least give you guys a quick heads up on what the country looks like on, on the section of the country that isn't in conflict, you know. Um, just look it over there. Given, it's a mountainous region of the country, but still, folks, we need to start, wising up and think about our future in America, the future of the next generation. I mean, I'm up there already. I'm getting older. So I just